Here we go. Got them installed. This looks so much better. That nice QA1. Made in the USA, man. I'm back on the 39 Ford. I really don't like the way these front coilovers turned out. They're just some cheap Amazon coilovers from a friend. Just don't like how they look. So instead we have some QA1 coilovers from another project that's been put on hold. So I'm going to mock this up onto that suspension and use these instead. As you can see, the QA1 is just a little bit shorter than the other. So I'm going to use this guy to make it at a 1 inch extension. You just thread this off of the stud and this would thread right on. The nut here is a 7/8. And this top mount is a 5/8. Anti-seize lubricant must be used on coilover threads to prevent gulling. Must be. Will void the warranty if you do not. So the instructions say, thread the aluminum locking collar shoulder up onto the shock, followed by the spring seat collar. Shoulder up. Down to the bottom shock thread. No further. Now is a good time to lubricate the threads of the shock with Permatex anti-seize lubricant. I'm not quite sure how much to use. Probably don't need a whole lot. It says to do it with the shoulder up. There's the shoulder. Yeah, you can see it's working that anti-seize all the way down as it goes. Okay, there's that one. Gonna add just a little bit more anti-seize up here, a little higher. I don't want to go too much. Followed by the spring seat collar. So that's this guy. Okay, step 2, it's talking about the optional thrust bearing kit. I do not have that kit, so I'm going to skip to step 3. Coat one side of the stainless steel spring seat washer that came with your shock with Permatex anti-seize lubricant. Place the lubricated side of the washer down on the spring seat. So that's this guy. So we're going to do one side, and that's going to go against this surface. Again, I'm not using a whole lot. No need to make a huge mess with it. Step 4, pull the piston rod out to its fully extended position. I already did that. This will be easier with the shock adjustment knobs turned counterclockwise to the softest setting. Slide the spring over the shock down to the spring seat adjuster and install the spring cap. Okay, now for the spring seat. Obviously you want as many threads as possible. This diagram's kind of hard to tell exactly how far that thread's in there. I'll show you what I'm looking at. You can see there, I'm tight. I'm tight to this cap. And when I turn this over, I don't think you can see that well. There's quite a bit of gap between the jam nut and the upper eyelet mount. Thinking I'm gonna put just a dab of anti-seize up here. Eyelet. Yeah, that's better. Much better. Much easier. And I don't have that weird grinding sound. Okay, so I can't turn it without turning the cylinder of the shock itself. So I guess I'm gonna have to run with that. What that's doing is actually compressing that spring just a little bit. And I want as many threads holding that as I can. Okay, looks like I'm pretty well there. Now for the tricky part. Hold the wrench, hold the shock. Or lay shock down. I do not like how little the wrench goes on. It's just barely on there. Well, I'm going to say that's the best I'm going to get. I think I got more threads on it than I did the first one. So that's on. So now, I need to get my sleeve in here, in this top eyelet. My bolt's a 1/2 inch. This is the part number for the upper mount, extended mount. It comes with 2 bushings. 1/2 inch diameter inside and a 5/8. Yep, let's pressure on it. And there it is. It's assembled, ready to be installed. Actually, not quite. I need bushings. So you can get replacement bushings. You'll have to check which model shock you have, the PromaStar or the others. I believe these are a PromaStar, so that's what I ordered. My lower mount on the suspension is a 5/8, so I'm using the large sleeve that comes with these little caps, and they just snap in. They're a little loose until you get that sleeve in there. One thing I don't like is this sleeve is significantly shorter than the actual rubber bushings, which I can't really comprehend that. So I'm going to pay attention to where I put this adjusting knob. I want that to be easily accessible. So I'm going to put that towards the outside of the vehicle. And then I can turn this. Need to raise my suspension up just a little bit. This here is pretty loose. I could just put it on and clamp it down with the bolt, but I have this other kit I bought for the sleeves in case I needed different sleeves. It's got some shims in there, so I think I'm going to put those shims in. It's still going to compress when I tighten it. Boy, does that look nice. Man, I wish I had a longer sleeve. It's just crushing that bushing, and it's nowhere near tight enough. So I wound up getting a different rubber bushing or polyurethane. I'm going to press into the eyelet of the shock. At least I'm going to attempt to. So you just barely got that on that eyelet then. Now I'm putting my 5/8 sleeve in. And there it is. So just to recap on how we got the bushing in. I'd watched people using hose clamps around here to compress it to get it in. But when we did that, the hose clamp just kept getting cockeyed and popping off. So we just put it on there, started pressing it in, and got it so that the bulge would go towards this edge of the coilover. And then we'd take a screwdriver and force that bulge back into the hole. And eventually we just got to go in. I do need to get a little bit longer bolt here. This should be sticking out a little bit. I saw something that showed the shank of the bolt before it gets to the threads should go through both tabs. So, and this one's only like right here. So I'm going to find a different bolt for both sides. I'll probably have to swap those springs at some point because those are 750-pound springs, but we'll see once we get the engine in it. Oh yeah. Thanks for watching.